Welcome to part two of an attempted stream, actually part three, right? YouTube, I did a stream before this where I talked about my day and the flea market stuff. Hopefully everybody will jump back over here and can see me again. But all of a sudden YouTube just said that I could not stream anymore. So I left the site, came back after trying again. They told me again, I cannot stream today. Got back on here and it said, yeah, okay, we're good to go. So, hey, welcome back. So, here's John, who has returned back. Hopefully, everybody is catching on. Make sure you share this for real now, so everybody knows that we started a new stream after had to end the other stream. It was a YouTube issue, guys, not me. Hand up. But anyway, be like John, subscribe, like, sub, and we'll give everybody a few minutes to get on here and we'll just start showing some comics. So the comics that I have today, the Gmart haul. I'm thinking about trying to find a new online store, so feel free to suggest ones that you guys use. I have a ton of comics there that have not been filled. And I have not ordered any new comics from there in about a month. And I got a feeling it's more to do with Diamond and Dynamite. I don't know if everybody's still getting the Fire and Ice book. That was the prequel to the Ralph Bakshi, Frank Frazetta Fire and Ice, but it seems to have stalled. There's quite a few issues left of that they haven't filled out. The first appearance of Death, Sandman #8 facsimile edition. I have the issue itself from the original run of Sandman. But I also, that facsimile edition has supposedly been canceled and I have not got a refund for it. But I went ahead and normally I wait till I accumulate $85 worth of new comics. I'm not buying that many new comics or the ones that are sitting there not being filled. So I went ahead and got an order early. I went ahead and paid $6 shipping. That's much better than anything. Yes, I am back, Afro FX. That was a YouTube issue with the previous stream. We'll just leave it up. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll figure this out together. But it's a Sunday in chill, so I want you to recenter. The cats are in the perch. I showed my beautiful view over there that's going on. I have my coffee. I'm actually cutting out coffee, guys. I'm cutting out the coffee. Um, it's time to do little tricks here and there, not little tricks, but healthy lifestyle. Get back to what I had before. John is here, right? All right, cool. So anyway, back to the comics. That's what we're here for. For you guys in the future, it is July 6th, 2025. We are at 8:52 in the AM. Right before this stream, the stream you have now, I had another stream going. We had a great run, a great talk, and then all of a sudden YouTube told me I could not stream anymore. I was out of the YouTube site, and now it's letting me stream again. So I don't know what their issue is. And normally I don't point fingers. Things just happen. They're not out to get me, but it was specifically telling me. So Gmart order, and then I have a few things I got off a site called Abe Books, ABE Books. People are probably familiar with it. And then there's one or two books here. I've probably shown one book, but I have some stuff off Amazon, and they go together because it's going to be my next read after I get through reading what I am reading. I want to talk about what I'm reading and stuff here in just a little bit after this, right? So we've got most of the, looks like we have everybody back plus some. So we're going to go ahead, thumb up the video, share it so people know that we're here. And make sure you comment. The comments keep this thing going and everything, right? So these are some newer comics, guys, from me. I took a chance. I have a few newer comics, and I am going to say I'm a little underwhelmed. I was a little underwhelmed, right? So in this house, it's not so much that I'm a James Gunn fanboy. It's that James Gunn makes movies that I like. I remember seeing Slither. I have Superhero or something that had Rainn Wilson. These are 2000s. I noticed this guy before he got big. And then, of course, if you go way back on my channel, I have a video that I did about Guardians of the Galaxy when the trailer came out, the movie. Because if you go way back and if you remember, people were skeptical. They were like, This is the first time they're using, B-level characters, C-level characters. Nobody really knows these guys. Could this be Marvel's first flop? And I'm like, no, it will not. And I tell you why. It's got a raccoon with a machine gun. So he did the Suicide Squad after getting fired from Marvel before they brought him back to do Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and stuff. And in the midst of playing around with DC and everything like that, he ended up doing the Peacemaker TV show on HBO Max. They're in the midst of rebranding themselves again, right? And I got a kick out of this show. I kind of give it like a solid 3.5 out of 5. You know what I mean? It's entertaining. I don't think it's like a classic show. It's got some funny moments, some cool moments. The hair bands that they brought up, the choir boys, I'm just sort of like, okay, there's some funny stuff. Hated what they did with Vigilante. And of course, with the reboot of the DCU, I don't know if you guys are excited about the Superman movie. It comes out in 5 days from when we're doing this. I'm kind of pumped. And of course, we had the Creature Commando show, and then we're going to have a Peacemaker season 2 that somehow season 1 will not specifically be part of the new DCU, but the second season is supposed to, right? So anyway, we have the Peacemaker Presents Vigilante and Eagly double feature from Black Label. James Gunn supposedly helped out with this book. Tom Seeley, I think, and someone. And I jumped right into this, and I found it actually kind of unreadable. I was like, what? I found the art was garish. They were trying to really catch the tone of the TV show, I guess. But I'm not sure what they're doing. The story just did not flow. I'm not quite sure what to tell you. I couldn't locate a plot. It was just a bunch of vigilantes sitting there just saying some. I'm not even offended. But I don't know. I can't tell you the plot. It's not big on characterizations. He has some weird talks with Eagly. There's just nothing compelling. And it's got this art style where like something could have been here if this had been a little bit more serious. They're lizards, I mean, they got lizard people here of the SS, if you will. I don't know, man. It's almost like if I want to really read something that's trying to be funny, I'll go back to some Keith Giffen Ambush Bug or something. I'm not sure what they were trying to do here. But anyway, like I said, it looks wonderful. It looks great, but I'm not real sure what to tell you. It's just like they're just trying to take the best moments of the TV show and fit the tone. Not big on plot, guys. I don't know. We, of course, will be taking another shot at it. I just went ahead and got the first one to take a chance. I was like, this will be the one time that I don't order a book and it'll actually become hot, retroactively, So we'll see. If anybody's read it or they're keeping up with it, let me know. So yeah, double feature, Eagly, Vigilante, Peacemaker, James Gunn universe. Charleston 66, glad I caught this. Hope all is well. Fantastic. Great to always hear from you, Charleston 66, especially on Instagram stuff. I have something here that I know you have, and I'll be bragging on it. So let's get the second book out of the way. I just had to take a chance on this because last week, I think it was last week, but if you go to my live shows, I just did my personal timeline of Batman. I just laid out all my Batman comics, told you how I thought they fit together in Batman's life. Ended up changing the name a few times of the title, just trying to play around with it. So I think I have it as my favorite Batman stories or something. Seems like a lot of people are not interested in continuity and timelines, you know what I mean, or with those words and stuff. But you tell them that these are your favorite books or at a top whatever plus a number, top 5, top 10, it might pop back in there. But this is the sequel to Hush. Jim Lee doing this. They brought back Jeff Loeb. And again, I know this is just, I know this is the sequel. And I know that we need to establish a little bit of a story, have a little bit of exposition to go forward and everything. But this feels like they were just going through the motions. And there's a lot of callbacks to other things. They're going back to Hush. They're referencing the booby traps that I actually referenced last week in Batman's Mask and a few things like that, and trying to do a few things that's kind of clever and stuff. And Jim Lee art, Jim Lee art is Jim Lee art. The guy's fantastic and stuff. But I feel like there's something lacking here, like in backgrounds or something. Right, right. Excuse me. Right. So let me get some coffee here since we're all together. So this could be a matter of this is supposed to be fun, and I am expecting, I'm being a little bit critical of like what are we throwing in here, man? Where are we going with this? I'm expecting a little bit of substance, right? And this could just be for fun, right? And anyway, they also for free. I don't know if this was a giveaway in the comic shops. I don't know if this was promotional material or how everyone was supposed to get it. But I was able to kind of look on eBay and I see people were kind of buying this and stuff. But they sent me an ash can for the second part. Uh, like I said, what I have here is, man, the way they number these, Batman 158, and this is the ash can that is a preview for Batman 159. So, and with the announcement of Tom King, I don't keep up these things as well as I do, but with the announcement of Tom King returning to Batman, I don't know if it's on the series or anything. I'm getting to wonder if this is just a placeholder for the Batman books. You know what I mean? But it's great to see Jeff Loeb come back. Jeff Loeb, of course, has written some of the all-time classic Batman stories, in my opinion. Even though sometimes, a criticism of him is it's much like Stephen King. Sometimes he can't stick to a landing. But if you guys remember Hush, uh, when it came out 23 years ago, 24, how long has it been, guys? I know I was still married to my first wife, so we're talking right after the millennium. I just remember that they really messed up because everybody was excited that Hush was actually going to be Jason Todd, and they turned it into Thomas Elliott, and they threw in Clayface. So when I did my stream on the timeline of Batman, my personal timeline of Batman, someone in the comments told me that they retroactively made it to where Clayface and the actual Jason Todd were switching places, like he was part of Hush. And I think I kind of remembered that, but it was lame. You know what I mean? So hopefully they've learned their lesson. If you're reading this, let me know. I'm always up for collecting, but like I said, I've just done a purge. I did the little mini flea market yesterday. Made about $64 in just a few hours and stuff. So I don't want to purge some books and turn around and replace them. That's been my problem. And I don't purge lightly. Like I will do a purge, and then when I replace it, I end up having like 3 or 4 short boxes all of a sudden. A deal will present itself to me. So let me know about Hush, guys. Hush 2, that is, right? Oh man, here we go. I'm not a fan of James Gunn. This is Afro SF. I'm not a fan of James Gunn, but I'm still excited and hopeful about his Superman movie. I've seen so many references to the comics that are in there that I've never thought I was going to see. I don't know if I'm going to be able to be objective, and that's fine. I feel like I'm going to be able to go in and have fun with the movie. I mean, we have the Superman robots, we have crypto. I've seen references that it's blown my mind because I'm thinking about trying to dig out the comic, but they brought up the fact that they call them hypno glasses. They're trying to say it's the glasses. But in the 70s, they established, and I can't believe they're making it canon again, that Superman puts out a super hypnosis most of the time. And what that does is when he is Clark Kent, people see him as being, his cheeks are sunk in. He looks a little bit more wimpy. His actual physical appearance looks different to them because he's hypnotizing them. And I heard a reference to that. But it was not the glasses. They were calling them hypno glasses. Hey, not, and then we have Charlton 66. Not a fan of what DC has done with Peacemaker, and he will always be Charlton character me. That's what I mean. I don't see him as Peacemaker. I see him as John Cena. Does that make sense? So, how you feel about what they did to him as Peacemaker is how I feel about what they did to Vigilante. All right. So, I totally understand. I get it. You know what I mean? Totally understand. Comic collectors here. Great to see you. Victor Shade. Hey, great to see you. Charlton 66. We had the ash can for $1 at the shop. However, I feel it's a custom. It was free if a customer bought the Batman title. Got you. Thank you. And then Afro SF, Peacemaker killing the Vigilante in the 80s comic, and Adrian Chase returned to the role of Vigilante. Okay, gotcha. All right, so this is an oldie. I ordered two of these. But I'm a huge Earth 2 fan, if you go way back. And then I'm a fan of Justice Society. I love the team books of DC and things like that, right? But what Jeff Johns did, David Goyer, James Robinson, going back to the 90s Golden Age miniseries. It was supposed to be an Elseworlds, or they made it an Elseworlds or something. And then the Starman book. And then they went into the JSA. James Robinson led up to it. Dave Goyer came in. The JSA book that came out from 99 and then came out for like 82, 81 issues before they went to a volume 2 of Justice Society proper. One of those classic runs. If you haven't read it, I mean, it's cheap. It's cheap out there, right? So anyway, years later, Jeff Johns was able to come back to his little corner, and he did this 12-issue miniseries of the Justice Society that tied into, I don't know what they called it, with Star Girl, another miniseries where it was like the return of the children, and all these forgotten sidekicks of the 1940s heroes were on an island where time didn't, where they were trapped, but time was separate from us, so they didn't age. Okay, there you go, right? I just kind of laughed if we had Stargirl and Myrtle Beach, in that story. And then it sort of tied into this, right? But this is issue number 11 of that JSA title. This came out over a year ago. I ordered 2 of these. Why? Because they got Tony Harris to come in and do this fantastic. He did quite a few variant covers, but this is one of Starman centric. And of course, we know Starman is one of my favorite heroes ever. So yeah, I ordered 2 of these because I'm actually probably going to like frame that at some point. But they didn't send it to me, and it just sat in my queue forever. And I finally had to ask them, "Are you ever going to send that to me?" They never replied, and it showed up in this. So yeah, I had to wait a year for a comic through them. Like thus, as I said in the previous stream, probably time for me to find a new store. These are new owners of the store that I've ordered from since about 2001. So yeah, it's time for a change. Okay, so the second thing I got, I have not read this yet, but my curiosity is piqued. It's piqued, right? I'm a guy, we all have that part, right? I can compartmentalize things, right? I love the Weirdlies from the Flintstones. Those were my favorite Flintstones episodes. I actually bought the season set that they're on, right? And then the Frankenstein, Hanna-Barbera monster characters, Adam's Family, the Munsters, little monsters from Gold Key. You know what I mean? Like little kind of goth things. And then we have Dan Baerton doing his nocturnals and stuff. I like things that are horror themed. You know what I mean? A lot of people will say that they're gothic and they're emo and they're very Tim Burton like and all that stuff. But I like that. I like that stuff, right? I'm in the mood for it, right? So I've been hearing about this Mark Spears book called Monsters. If you have me on Instagram, you already seen this, right? So I'm sort of interested in this now because I'm looking at this cover and I'm like, this isn't just a painted cover. I don't know how he did the art. I mean, it looks like it's enhanced with a computer. I don't know, right? But I'm hearing about this Mark Spears Monsters issue 4. But all I've ever seen are people going crazy and nuts about the variant covers that he does. They call back to Marvel and DC Comics and iconic covers and stuff. The first time I saw it was when they were doing a parody or a satire or an homage to the Marvel 25th anniversary covers with the frame. You know what I mean? I had those ordered and I pulled back. I'm like, you don't need those, right? I never heard anyone talk about the story. I've never heard anybody say what's inside the book. But then they had one that I just could not get. We have the Killing Joke variant cover, right? So Mark Spears, this is your chance with me. I will be reading this and cracking this open, right? And again, fishing for comments a little bit. I want to know if anybody's actually read the Mark Spears monster issues. I mean, this is just number 4, and I feel like I've heard about this book forever and those other variant covers forever, and we're just on number 4, right? I'm wondering if it's a case where it's hot art. And like I said, hopefully this will show up, but the artwork on this is what blew me away. I can't really figure out how he did it. I feel like it's computer enhanced somehow. But that is a tough cover, man. That is very well done. And that will go on the shelf with my Killing Joke stuff and the Killing Joke homage covers and stuff, right? All right. Victor Shade is here. Charlton 66. We had an ash can. I read that one. Afro SF. I remember Peacemaker killing the vigilante. I read that one. Here we go. Afro FS. I still miss the All Star Squadron comic. Got them downstairs, the entire run, all the annuals, the crossover with Justice League. I had them all there when I wanted to revisit them. If you could use a, I could use a few upgrades, because I still have the issues from when I was a kid. I think I ran the first issue I ran across. It was the cover of it. They were on a train and was a Commander Steel fighting a giant praying mantis. I have to go look. I feel like I want to say it's got to be around issue 8, but I don't know if that's right. I also remember it was the same time that I found New Teen Titans number 25. I remember that splash page and stuff, right? Walden Books. It was a Walden Books in Bluefield, West Virginia, at a Mercer in the side the Mercer Mall. All right. I have, you know what? I have a video way back where I think I got tagged by YouTube where I used Motorhead 1916, and I just have that song playing behind me, and I'm showing my incomplete set at the time of All Star Squadron and stuff. Yeah, God, that was like 2010 or 11. I don't know, 12 maybe. I haven't read it, but I don't get the hype on the art. Okay, I got you. That was Comic Book Collector. I'm assuming talking about Mark Spears and then Charlton 66. I don't get this fascination with Mark Spears. We sell out just because of the covers. He's a Basil Kokus ripoff. That, yeah, that's kind of where I went with it. I was out with Josh one time and I pulled out some books. We were looking at comics somewhere and I showed him the Nocturnals and he got it. The reason I wasn't impressed with Mark Spears is I think in that moment he got that I had collected so long and new stuff like what you're bringing up here, Charlton 66, that he was like, so you've seen this before. I think he kind of got the idea. I think he caught in that one moment when I showed him this Nocturnal series from the 90s that's why I wasn't super excited about it. I've seen the stuff before. And with the artist that you just named, we know that's the superior one. So yeah, don't get it. I'm kind of glad I got that feedback, but I'm going to check it out. He's got my curiosity. I don't know how he does the art. I think it's a more of a mystery than anything. I got to know the mystery. It's from all those years of growing up watching Clue Club and Scooby Doo and the Teen Angels with Captain Caveman. There's a mystery. It's got to be solved. Tear the mask off the monster, right? And then Charlton 66, he had my back on this one. He had my back. Charlton, I appreciate you checking to see if I had this. I've learned my lesson over the years of not grabbing tomorrow's publishing magazines when it's time. I learned my lesson. But something as near and dear to me, with what we have here is Back Issue Magazine. And it's very with such a morbid cover when you realize that these are the characters that died in Crisis on Infinite Earths. A lot of them in issue 12 and stuff like that. But the last issue of Back Issue Magazine that I had was a tribute to Keith Giffen. This week we lost Jim Shooter. Last night, as of this recording, I don't know if it's so much a loss. It's just that it's time. I feel like it was a natural. Excuse me, it was a natural end that needed what they had the Black Sabbath concert in Birmingham, England last night. Is that Wembley, I think? Black Sabbath. We have a lot of endings and stuff. And this itself was an ending. But this is a 40th anniversary issue celebration looking back on Crisis on Infinite Earths. In Crisis on Infinite Earths, I was lucky to be there. I was lucky to have read comics leading up to it, to get and to be there for something that was original and had never been done before. And now that time has gone by, there have been some great crossover events. There have been some bad crossover events. There have been some money grabs of crossover events and stuff, right? And as time has come by, the cream has risen to the top. And I think we can look back and realize that Crisis actually it's probably one of the best, if not the best, right? It has held up. I think the biggest thing that people discover is that it's overwhelming if they try to read it now, if they're a younger reader. They don't know a lot of the characters, and it's a lot of information per issue. This is back in the day where it was designed to, you spent a month reading the book leading up to the second one. You got your money's worth when you're paying that little 75 cents and 60 cents back in the day, 35 cents, 40 cents. They would apologize for going from 12 cents to 15 cents. You know what I mean? Like, it was that big deal, but you got your money's worth. So I try to read the book in four, like it's a 3-act play, with number 9 being an intermission, right? So back issue magazine, there's interviews in here. There's Earth from the multiple universe explored in this. Um, but to Mars Publishing, if I get an issue, it's time to sit down and take my time in it and savor it, right? I hate that Mike Erie has retired, okay? But I don't know, I can't remember. This may be the first one, maybe not, where he's not at the editorial reins and stuff, right? Mike Erie had a handshake agreement with Roy Thomas within the company that Roy has the Silver Age and back, and then Mike does the 70s, Bronze Age, and forward and stuff, right? They usually have themes going on with their books and stuff, their articles and stuff, right? So that is Back Issue Magazine 159. I can still name almost all of these characters off the top of my head. Uh, Actually, I can name all but one. I'm not recalling this guy, and it's right on the tip of my tongue. But it's been 40 years since he appeared. I think he's one of the few that they never brought back. Right. But my comments on Crisis, I actually have I should have done part 2, but I did a deep dive on Crisis on Infinite Earths. God, that was around 2015 or something. And I had a part 1 on it, Crisis on Infinite Earths review part 1. And I just talked about what led up to it and where the Marvel got the idea of the Monitor and how he was originally the librarian, how George Perez pulled from the High Evolutionary to design the Monitor and stuff, right? And I saw some of the first pages of a current book now. I never finished it, but it has thousands of views now. I kind of wished I'd finished it way back then. But anyway, I saw the what's the word I'm looking for here? I saw the new history. I saw a couple of every page is a splash page. So I saw the first few pages of the new history of the DC universe by Mark Waid, where he has this, it's like he has all the history of the DC universe as a puzzle and he gets to reorganize the pieces. I don't find that very creative. You know what I mean? Cleanup process is a cleanup process. So if you compared that to Crisis, where they were trying to clean up their jumbled mess editorially and come up with one universe and stuff, I was not impressed, because one of the first splash pages I saw, they had some female cosmic character there, right? And for whatever reason, she created the Monitor, the Anti-Monitor, and some world builder, some guy that built worlds and stuff, right? And they did not match, and they didn't use the original design for the Anti-Monitor. So right from the bat, I was just sort of like, they're already messing this up. So yeah, I'm getting a little reminiscing, and I feel very lucky to have been around for this when it was coming out. This made the paper, right? There was articles made, people were talking about it, nothing had been done. They would kill Supergirl. They let that out real quick, and then you got the 1-2 punch where in the next month they killed Barry Allen. And I always said Barry Allen had to die because he started the Silver Age, that proper DC universe, if we can call it that. You know what I mean? At the time, 1958 to 1985. So it was symbolic. And then I went ahead and got this. So we were talking about the Crisis 40th anniversary. So kids today get to get a little taste of that, because they're doing this with Secret Wars. They're doing this a whole lot. After years and over a decade of just trying to take older collectors, because we were in our 30s and 40s and stuff like that, and they were just trying to sweep us away and come in and free themselves from continuity and get rid of all of us and get that new audience in that never showed up in great numbers, if you will. They've turned around and we've got facsimile editions and epic collections, and we're going to put these books out month by month like we did 42 years ago and stuff. They're doing it with Secret Wars and stuff. And this is issue 12 of Crisis. So I have all my original Crisis beat up in red, signed by Marv Wolfman and George Perez back in 2013-ish or something like that. I have a trade that I found in an antique shop for like $1 or $2. That's beautiful inside and beat up on the outside and stuff. And now I have the entire facsimile edition of it. I have a short box of the crossovers and everything. And I think there's still one or two books I still need to have all the complete, have the complete crossovers. I think it's a Wonder Woman issue that's really getting me, and maybe a few detective slash Batman issues that weren't labeled as Crisis on Infinite Earths, but they had the red skies. So when Crisis was going on, people would just have red skies in some back of the comics, and over the years, people were like, "That's a Crisis crossover because of the red skies." So yeah, we have that, man. So Crisis is great, right? And then we also go back, and I had to get this, right? This is a hardback. Um, this has been reprinted maybe 3 or 4 times that I can think of. And last week on my Batman timeline, I showed all the original issues. This is one of the first prestige format books. That's what we called them back then. They were square bound books with high quality paper and thick covers. That actually I found on a newsstand, which blew my mind. But it was, what I considered ugly Mike Mignola art, and I was like, he was standing out at the time. And now that they have I was telling people, I don't know, a month or two ago or somewhere here on one of these live streams, there's this fantastic Making Monsters documentary that's Hellboy centric about Mike Mignola. He's interviewed in it, his daughter's in it, and it's got some interesting stuff in his history and comics. They do skim over some stuff, which is fine. But there's a little part in here where he's talking about how he spent a year, just for a minute, he talks about how he spent a year drawing this 4 issue miniseries of Cosmic Odyssey. And he had all this Jack Kirby stuff, and he was able to be more expressive in his art and exaggerate stuff. He didn't think he was really influenced by Kirby, which I don't know how he could say that, even back then with some of his artwork. But this was the one that kind of led him to start experimenting with his art after spending a year looking at Kirby designs and references and stuff, right? So I thought that was very cool. But this is a hardback. And I think a couple years ago, this is the same thing. The quality paper is different. But I got to tell you, man, what a garish cover. I mean, I don't like how we have the logo taking over half the book, and the artwork is at the bottom. This is comic book, guys. They work hand in hand. You know what I mean? Okay. Yeah, I just really do not like that design on that cover, but hey, we can get past it. So yeah, there we go. Right, we got 3 or 4 more things to show here. So give me what we got here. Oh, what we got here. The Comic Collector, Perpetual from Death Metal. And then Mike's Total Dragon Channel. Hey, welcome, Mike. Cosmic Odyssey, the book John Stewart fans want you to forget. I think it made John Stewart more interesting. Even at that young age, what was I, like 14, 15 when this came out? Jim Starlin was still in the house, right? Thanks to the stepdad, I had Jim Starlin, Steve Gerber, that kind of stuff in there from his collection, right? So I kind of knew what was in there, and I don't think I quite understood what I don't. How can I put this? I knew what to expect from Jim Starlin. I don't think I was using words like the themes that he uses and stuff, right? But it's all in there. You know what I mean? The cosmic stuff, the self-destructive stuff. I'm trying to want the self-deleting stuff. It's all in there. There's a lot of things that he had pulled in there from his Captain Marvel days and Warlock days and stuff. The themes are all in there in the same. Jim Starlin would bring some maturity in there and stuff, right? So yeah, I knew what was in there, but but you're right. You're right. The John Stewart was responsible for something happening, and then he did. They need to wish that what was that Green Lantern Mosaic book? That's the one John Stewart fans need to hope everybody forgets, because they have, and make sure it doesn't come back. Sterling and Batman is underrated. I talked about it last week. There's a live show that I did last week about my favorite Batman stories, the timeline. I talked about the Jim Starlin stuff for a little bit and stuff, how it's essential. It really is essential. Okay, guys, so we're going to do 2 books here. All right, and I know I saw one. I know I've shown one of these, right? But I don't know how you guys feel about the turtles out there, those Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and stuff, right? Highly influential, right? And I think I heard about them first, like when you had your comic books, and you went through the ads. You had like Mile High Comics, New England Comics, and then a few places you could order catalogs. I actually ordered some of the catalogs around in 85 and 86 when I was 12 or 13. Sent a whole 50 cents through the mail in a white envelope, guys. You know what I mean? I did it. And I ended up getting this little small homemade magazine catalog that was typed probably about as probably a little bit bigger than my phone. And he went through there and it was just listed in alphabetical with little prices and stuff, right? Um, anyway, so I wish I still had that, man. That thing was. I looked at it and I kind of like laughed. I'm like, oh, and now I would kill to have it for the nostalgia, right? So that's how I heard about the turtles through the ways into ordering and stuff, right? So it blew my mind when all of a sudden I come home one day. And it was so funny. Usually I was home Saturday mornings watching the cartoons. It was a thing. I still would love to do it, if I could go back and do it. But Mighty Mouse and Pee Wee Herman and the Ruby Spears Superman, that might have been peak there for a little bit, right? But we went into the 90s doing that stuff. But what I'm getting at is imagine my surprise when all of a sudden I actually came home one day, turned on the TV, and there's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. I'm like, what? So anyway, my Turtles, it's supposed to be from 84 to about 92. But my Turtles was the Mirage Studio stuff when I finally was able to pick up a piece here and there and anything like that, right? It's Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman. And in 92, I've had to go back and look at this. In issue 48, well, let's put it this way. In issue 47 there, for a few years, that's a way to put it, the Turtles book came out sporadically, and there was other people working on it. Mike Zuley worked on it. Von Bode worked on it. Everybody got to do the little thing. And then all of a sudden, to close out the series and stuff, to get ready for it, around issue 58, the guys came back proper, the creators. They did a 2-issue story. Then around issue 50, we got City at War. That ran for 12 issues. And it closed out the Mirage Studios. But fret not, because Archie Comics was putting out a Turtles book that was more or less the TV show. And what was it? Did Eric Larson buy him out and did this horrendous tale where he tortured the turtles, and Nickelodeon acquired them, and then it came back, and Peter Laird and all that stuff. So what am I getting at? What I'm getting at is I finally get to finish the City at War when it was the Turtles proper. The Turtles are, as a franchise, they remind me of Batman because Batman has survived all sorts of interpretations. But at their core, Batman is Batman. Well, that's the same thing with the Turtles, right? The Turtles origin, right? So I was able to get on Amazon, and my wife actually got one of these for an anniversary present for me, right? Number 5, right? But issue 4, volume 4 of IDW doing the Ultimate Collections, their Ultimate Collections through IDW, we get issue 48 through, I think, 55. So I get the first 6 chapters of City at War. And these other 2 chapters, as you saw, I had those, right? Where they kind of have a prequel coming up, catching everybody up where they're at, right? All these issues are in here, right? So yeah, I've read most of what's in here, and then volume 5 that I have, I finally get to finish at City at War. 33 years later, right? You figure I would have got on this. I mean, I've gone on the kick to like, hey, if I'm going to read Cerebus, I need to get on there and finish reading Cerebus and stuff like that. But yeah, we get to finish the Turtles, and this closes things, right? I have 4 of the first publishing graphic novels, if you will, where they reprint a lot of the early Turtles adventures. And then I have the 2 here with Peter and Laird doing their City at War, ending it and stuff. So yeah, I'm very happy. This is it. This will more or less complete my Turtles collection. I have Last Ronin, which was a plot that they say they came up with during the 80s, which is why I think it was so good. It came from that era. But yeah, the Turtles, this is the version of the Turtles I like. Now, in the previous stream that crashed, here's the issues that are in this one. Yeah. What is this? 56 to 62. These are the stories I need to complete. Now, I will say on Paramount Plus, or if you have them on DVD, I've got one of the seasons. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoon that Nickelodeon put out in the early 2000s, which I think is exceptional for the Turtles. Um, they did a two-part City at War story, and I remember barely getting through the the first episode. So I don't know quality-wise how part two is or anything like that, right? But yesterday, as I was talking, I got one more book to show, guys. As I was talking about how we set up on the street of Blue Whale, and there's like 4 or 5 of us under 2 canopies with our little tables, similar to books. One of the younger guys that was there, huge turtle fan, and he had all sorts of turtle action figures and stuff. Right? He even had this limited set that was the actual figure was colored to look black and white, so it looked like the original turtles and stuff like that. It was great to see that the turtles are surviving and going forward and stuff, right? What we got here, Gretzky is here. Good morning, Mr. Gretzky. Good morning, right? So anyway, before I get to this last book, a little background here, where I'm starting to get philosophical a little bit because getting out at the under that canopy, I've hung out with a few friends here and there, as we get older, and I actually like hanging out with my wife in the distance from friends and stuff like that. Actually spend either a lot of time with myself, and then every couple months I will see my some of my friends. I will hear from them online, and then I do a lot of work. I work outside, and then I come home and I try to read or look up these things, right? But yesterday was the first time I actually got to sit and be bored with a couple of guys. A lot of people did not show up until after 12, in my opinion. We had 2, 3 people come in, look at our stuff, but it really picked up after 12. And I, of course, had gotten up early, slept 4 hours the night before, and I was up there the first one unloading. Probably got there about 7:30. We didn't start till 9. So I was sitting there, and I was sitting here realizing like there's a young kid over here with a card table. He had his leather jacket on. Down the street, this is the reason we were doing it. There was a bash, I don't know, a mosh and Blue Whale or something. They had 4 or 5 bands that were going to start playing around noon, and a parking lot, and people were able to mosh and stuff, right? I remember being this kid, and this kid showed up with records. He had a little milk crate halfway full of records and some other whatnot stuff. And, he had like Black Flag, and we got to talk some music. I also found out that he's one of the people that believes Rorschach was not the hero. He did not like Alan Moore, and he hates Guns N' Roses. And I'm sitting there thinking, I remember being this kid. You know what I mean? He's probably like about 18 and stuff, right? He came over and actually had a picture frame of a black and white picture of Nosferatu from the original, and some other Plan 9 from Outer Space, a little picture of that promotional card in there. I just gave them to him. I was like, when you sell something, give me the money back. When he sold something, I was like, just keep it and stuff, right? Because I was like, God, I was that kid. Then the guy that was in the Turtles, I was kind of that guy around 25. And then there's another guy there, I think named Alex, in his 30s. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I was kind of this guy then. It's like I saw my life. And then all of a sudden I look up and there's a guy. He blew my mind. I mean, we talked here and there over the years. We did not hang out in high school and all that stuff. He popped up, a guy I went to high school with. He goes to his car and he comes out with a yearbook from 1987 when we're in 8th grade. And he's just reminiscing about all these people. And I'm sitting here like having this philosophical moment where I'm sort of like, I see myself as all these people, and I'm kind of glad I'm not here. He's at that point, I guess, in his early 50s where he's really reminiscing. I heard him say something about he wished he didn't waste so much time in bars and stuff. I got out of the bar scene when I was 44. Okay, you know what I mean? And I talked about that with him. So it was kind of, I was like, man, I'm in a good place. I'm not really stuck. I'm not that reminiscent. A lot of times, comic books are one thing. Wishing comics had the substance and quality of the past is one thing, but I'm not stuck. So the irony that I ordered this book, I have caught myself listening to music or something every now and then, having those moments of kind of wishing I could be 12 years old on my bike going somewhere. There's moments I kind of miss, but I don't really want to be there. High school for me, I was bored. The home life was sucky about 75% of the time, and my best times were when I was outside. So imagine my surprise when I was looking for this and I found it super cheap. I think this is a $50 book that I found for, I don't usually share this, too much of this, but I think I found this for like 17, 16, $17, brand new, still in the seal. But Paul Levitz apparently came out with 2 books of DC in the 80s. The first one was End of Eras, And this one is The Experiments. It's still wrapped up. I found this when I got home yesterday. It finally came in. And basically, it's a hardback book. And what you see is what you see. And there's supposed to be essays in here talking about all these stories in here, right? What is included in this book? Well, off the top of my head, what's obviously here is we got Swamp Thing number 40. That's the story about the werewolves and the menstrual cycles of women that he threw in there. Bloody moon. So I kind of think it's funny they stuck that issue in here. We get an issue of Watchmen in here. I don't know off the top of my head if it's number 1 or number 2. We get an issue of Camelot 3000 that I've seen a lot of people talking about on X and Twitter here lately, which blows my mind. Dark Knight Returns number 2, an issue of not so much Amethyst, but we get the preview issue that was like in Legion of Superheroes 298 or something, right? We get this. What was that? I knew it until Angel Love. I think it's Angel Love or something. And this ambush, it's so wild. This ambush story. This is a Keith Giffen plotted story, of course, with his regular crew that's with him. But they took the ambush Secret Origin from Secret Origin number 48, if you remember that series and stuff. And it was an interesting take on ambush bugs. So I was like, well, that's a unique take. We get an issue of Frank Miller's Ronin. We get, I think, the first appearance from Warlord. We get Warlord 48 and 55, the backup stories that introduced Conquerors of the Barren Earth and something else, right? And I kind of wish they could have put in an issue of Atari Force to expose people. And these have, and of course, Sandman number 8 is in here, I believe. So yeah, they have a lot of things in here, and there's essays talking about the story behind some of these stories and stuff, right? And here's the people that are in this: Mike W. Barr, Stephen Bissett, Brian Boland, Ernie Colin, Jan DeRussa, Neil Gaiman, Dave Gibbons, Keith Giffen, Paul Cooperberg. So they also have Doom Patrol number 25, I think, in here. Well, Grant Morrison's run on it. Paul Cooperberg, Todd McFarlane, Frank Miller, of course, Alan Moore, Grant Morrison, Roy and Dan Thomas, Scott Shaw. So we have a Teen Titans back. The Teen Titans, I don't know what it was, 16 or 17. It's the first appearance backup. It was a backup feature introducing us to Captain Carrot, and the Zoo Crew. So we have that in here. That's the talent. New stories. These stories are accompanied by essays from eyewitnesses to the Revolution. Marv Wolfman, Dave Givens, Barbara Slate, Paul Levitz, and these are experiments, right? So this thing is packed packed with the things that they felt were experimental. And the hook for this, see, I have a video. Again, I keep referencing my own videos, but I have the video where Little Howler Mouse bought his comics. It may be on my main channel. I may have kept it up as if you come on my channel, it'll automatically start playing. But I'll walk you through all the abandoned buildings and places where I bought my comics off the spinner rack in my little town. And what they're saying in this is that the hook for this book is they're saying in the 80s, the spinner racks were disappearing and the direct market was taking over. I think the direct market took over in the later 80s. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know my experience in my little town versus the entire country is maybe different. But anyway, that's the hook. They're saying that they allowed DC to, these are the experiments to try to figure out what a direct comic audience would want to make them pick up the books and the glut that was out there. And these are the things they came up with, right? So yeah, I'm into the actual comic book history. The way they have abandoned continuity and tried to ignore things. We have the books. We have our collections. They cannot take that away from us. But I'm also very interested in like what was going on at the time. What are the stories that was happening in those offices and stuff? Those are the stories that I really hate are going to disappear over time. So at least we have 2 books. The first one's called End of Eras and stuff, right? That one's a little bit pricey. I can't really find that right now, but it will be mine, right? But anyway, the DC, in the 80s, the experiments. I don't know. When I read this, I want to be in the zone. I want to be totally sitting down, totally comfortable, no distractions, not a lot of noise. I want to go through here and I want to like to see what are the essays about? What do they have to say in there? So if anybody's read this, hey, let me know. I actually went on YouTube like it's a big deal, like it's amazing. But last night, for like about 5 minutes, I didn't do a deep dive. I went on YouTube trying to find somebody that's reviewed the book, and it's one of the few things that I found that no, I could not find one. So I'm sort of like, what happened there? What happened? Eric Breen, turns out there was nothing but the dead and dying back in his little town. You've been here. So, with all my travels of going around away from the place and then coming back to where I am now, and it's a town over, and I actually have to go down in there and stuff, it really is sad to see what's become of the place. But here's what's so funny. Do you guys remember Tiffany from the 80s, the girl that sang in the malls and did Tommy Dorsey songs, and she thought we were alone now and things like that? She's playing there July 26th. And I found out the story yesterday of how that happened. Somebody on the town council or something in the town went on a cruise, and I think it was an 80s cruise, and that person's wife actually ended up talking to Tiffany on the cruise, became friends, and now they've invited her to come play Richlands, and she's staying at an Airbnb in a little town called Cedar Bluff. I was sort of like, well, they shouldn't be making this so public where she's at. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm a town over, and this is all old news, so I'm not exposing anything and stuff, right? So yeah, that blows my mind. It's a dead and dying place, right? So I want to show you one more thing, some of the stuff that I'm reading and about to read, and see what you guys think. So let me grab it over here. Oh, where's the other one? Anyway, there's one more book here, but I think you get the point. I've already shown it, the Darwin Cook stuff. And why not? Hold on. We have another bookshelf behind the couch, guys. There's the Catwoman. All righty. So I have a short box over here that I was going through the other night, and it was, of course, Secret Origins and the Who's Who's from the 80s, right? So I actually went through a few of those and actually read a few of those and stuff, right? But what I'm finishing up, as you can see, is Catwoman, Tales of the Catwoman by Darwin Cook, Ed Brubaker, Mike Allred, and stuff like that. And it has a bunch of backup detective stories, a bunch of Slam Brady stories that they brought back, and it's very Slam Brady. It's very noir, if you will. And they keep making a thing about how Slam Brady's like in his 50s and hard as it's good stuff, right? Mike Hammer, like, you know what I'm saying? And then it leads into the Ed Brubaker, Darwin Cook series of the early 2000s and stuff. And I got to tell you, man, it's dense reading, and I'm digging the style of it. And I'm just glad I'm seeing this stuff. I like noir stuff, but like I said, it's not bingeable. You really got to I personally have to take my time. I love taking in the dense storytelling, a lot of panels in each page so far, as you can see. And you got to just really take it in and pay attention to it. It's not so much that it reads like a noir movie. It's more like it kind of reminds me of the radio plays I listened to yesterday's and stuff like that. So we're just kind of taking our time through that. And that's one of the great things about comics. I'm used to, as many people here, getting the stack of comics. So you're reading and following potentially, 5-6 stories per month at the same time, or whatever you buy, right? We have this on the side. So I showed you guys where I bought this, but this is I guess the last Rocketeer story, I think. It's the final act. But this is the one that I'm assuming took years. Going off the top of my head, Kamiko had gone out of business, and years later, Dark Horse puts this out. This is the third one. I sat down to start reading this, and the freaking artwork is so pristine in this. I'm like, oh no, we're going to wait. You know what I mean? When we have time to sit that down. So we have that out. Let me know if you've seen this. Going on the kick here. This has been a mixed bag. I've heard for years people talking about Gotham Sirens, and I think going by my memory, I didn't really read the book. I think I have an issue or two down there. It seems like a lot of these Ed Brubaker books and Paul Dini books and things like that were sporadically coming out. You had Gotham Central that I've seen people brag about, and I actually got to flip through the trade that they have at Ollie's and stuff. I'm like, oh, this does look good. It's cops and crime and stuff like that. And at the same time, they had Harley Quinn and the Gotham Sirens, but I swear I think it was just called the Gotham Sirens at the time. Paul Dini started it out. Scott Lobdell came out. I didn't really dig the artwork, which is why I never picked it up. And it seemed like it didn't. It seemed like it had a rotation of writers and stuff. And I think it went out because the DC 52 came out. So yeah, we have this issue 1 through 13 of Gotham City Sirens. Scott Lobdell, Paul Dini, and a bunch of other people. But like I said, the artwork really didn't do it for me. So we'll see what happens. So I made it through an issue or two, and it gets to be Riddler centric is where I'm at right now. But like I said, it's not really blowing me away, but we have it. These compact comics are cheap. Actually, I think I'm wondering. I think I bought this on a whim, of course, for like $10. But we're eventually going to be getting to some of the villains and stuff, right? So I'm hoping that all the hype and the people that finally remember this that I ran across over the years, that it gets better. I'm really hoping it's not just that they're Harley Quinn fanboys and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So we're reading that. Yeah, we got that there. Okay. And then we're finishing up this. This is an interesting era of the X-Men, 82 to 83. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I'm not really blown away. It is light. With the Brood do seem to be monsters. The Dave Cockrum art feels a tad dated. And I don't feel like we have the Chris Claremont that we're about to get around the corner. So I'm wondering how much of nostalgia we're feeling there. You know what I mean? Like how much is this is nostalgic and stuff, right? And maybe it's just the era of time. Like we have an issue where the cliffhanger is Colossus gets stabbed through the heart, and they tell us he's dead. The next issue, they're spending 2 or 3 pages to save him, and then like an issue or two later, he's right back like nothing happened. I have not gotten to the Paul Smith stuff yet, right? In 83, I had a friend who blew me away because he had ROM comics, Team America comics, and he had some of the Paul Smith comics where Storm went punk when she was with the Morlocks. So yeah, so I'm waiting to get to that. This does lead into those issues. The issues in this book are Uncanny X-Men 154 to 167, annual number 6. That's what I'm saying. This is what's an interesting era. Like, I have a lot of these issues, the Sienkiewicz issues where we have Storm and Dracula. It started out in an X-Men book, ended up being revisited in an annual. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff here where it just moves along. Maybe it moves along a little too fast, and we don't get to really see a lot of these great ideas breathe and stuff, right? So I think in the next years where we start getting the Claremont of the Claremont. Yes, we had Dark Phoenix Saga and all those great Byrne issues, everything from the 70s and leading up to that. There's great issues, but that's why this was such a jolt for me to actually read a little bit more of this era. You know what I mean? All in one setting and stuff, right? So we are a little over halfway through that, just taking our time, and we're getting into familiar territory. I'm sure this was a classic issue for a lot of people where in one whole issue we have Wolverine on an alien planet. It's kind of like I picked up the book and I felt like I'd missed something. I'm like, how did he get there? What happened? They talk about the alien planet and how something's wrong with him, and it turns out his healing factor is fighting the brood that's been implanted in him, and instead of being like Alien where they explode on it to it, your body just turns into one of the brood. This is the Brood saga. But yeah, volume 9 of the fantastic epic collections that come out through there, right? So we're leading up to the Paul Smith stuff that I'm very excited about, the Paul Smith penciled stuff. Yeah, the guy should have really lasted on there. And I saw an interview where he had a little bit of regret about his work ethic. He didn't want to be on. He was talking about all the money. He's getting paid well to do the X-Men because it's selling so well or whatever he said. But he wanted off such a high-profile book, as that's how he ended up on Doctor Strange. Apparently, because like he just kind of admitted he was lazy. It's one of those things where I wished I never saw the interview. I had a whole completely different Paul Smith in my head. Yeah. Rereading Scalped at the moment. Oh man, Scalped is such a visceral book. Um, Scalped takes place on an Indian reservation, guys, and it's a crime book, if anything. But man, I have the Jason Aaron, if I remember right. I have the first issue. I have 4 or 5 issues signed by him. And I think I got rid of the trade years ago, but that book is so visceral and stuff. There's been a couple times where I read the book and was like, I gotta go take a shower, man. I feel like I've been on a dirty mattress or something, man. Great book, great book. I mean, it'll get it. Yeah, well done, Mustard. That's an underrated freaking book. While that hasn't been made into a show, there's a show on Max. Takes place in Pennsylvania where this convict comes to town. Nobody knows he's there. And a new sheriff has also come to town. And he stops at a bar and gets killed. Nobody knows the sheriff's there. Nobody knows what he looks like. And the convict ends up, God, it's right on the tip of my tongue. Banshee. I think it's Banshee. I feel like if they had Banshee, we should have had Scalped. Victor Shade. I picked up the X-Men Epic, and I like the Paul Smith art. Historically, I left after Paul Smith left. Wasn't a fan of the stories, but also aging out of comics for a time. Yeah, that's kind of why there's bits and pieces here that I had to back up. I got a whole story about reading some X-Men from the Silver Age, seeing where they were, had a friend that was in the Dark Phoenix saga, but I was cantankerous. When I found out they were popular and everybody was talking about them, the Titans, I stayed away, and the Asgardian Wars brought me in. I had an issue here and there. I had the issue that I bought when Scott Summers and Madeline Pryor were flying on their honeymoon and ended up having to land on the ocean to fix the plane, and he fought the octopus. I thought that was a good issue. And then we have Victor Shade, but it was selling, yes, in Comic Crack. Good morning, guys, right? All right, moving on with what I'm reading here. Let me know if you're into this stuff, but I realized I got these back in May or something, right, with my last art, and I'm getting behind on my EC Comics reading. These have been on the shelf. I've flipped through them. In my mind, when I picture what a comic is supposed to be, I don't think Dave Gibbons and Watchmen, which I should. I don't think Miller, which I should. I think EC Comics with Jack Davis and Al Williamson and Wally Wood and the Heavy Blacks and storytelling and stuff, right? To me, these are the epitome of what comics should be, and it's an anthology series. So the stories are quick and stuff, and you get a bunch, like I said, of stories all in there, and a little bit of sci-fi and crime and a theme and stuff, right? Morality stories where the bad guy gets it in the end, no matter what. You know what I mean? But anyway, these reprint for 4 to 6 issues. This completes the Haunt of Fear, Volume 5, and I can't believe I haven't just devoured these. These Dark Horse reprints are just fantastic and affordable. I got the shelf that you saw me saw me stand in front of back here. The bottom, I've got a section of where I've gotten tons of these over the last 2 years and stuff, right? The Weird Science books are in this. So yeah, these are to be read. I usually devour these in no time and stuff, right? And there's a little part where it does do the thing where I feel like a little kid. Even though I did not read EC Comics as a kid, I did see some of these artists in Mad Magazine and stuff like that, right? So I can totally tell. And I'm the guy that likes to read reference material. No joke, guys. I used to read maps just for the fun of it and stuff like that. The Who's, the handbook of the Marvel Universe and things like that. And one of the ones that I have not seen reprinted, doesn't mean it has not been reprinted, But somewhere along the line, it took me forever to find issue 2 of this because it disappeared from the stands. Right when you had the spinner rack, it was unpredictable. I mean, you would sit there and get like 10 issues with no problem, and then all of a sudden you come in and you're like, where's number 11? Where's the next one? And it would be years before you get it. Crisis on Infinite Earth 4. I did not find that one until number 11. Guys, it was the 80s for you guys that were there and stuff. It was kind of like when you missed a TV show, you want to die not ever seeing it. So what's in your mind? Like, that's it. I missed. It's over. And that's how this was, right? So this is the who's who in the Star Trek universe with this fantastic Howard Chaykin cover. I got this right off the rack and stuff. And then I never found number 2. It would be forever since I found number 2. So having that feeling when I found there's another number 1 here, I'm sure, right? So when I found it, I always back up and make sure that I pick them up when I find them on the cheap. They're in good standing. There's John Bernard in here. They reference the original series. They reference the Filmation um, TV show from the Saturday mornings in the 70s. And this particular issue, I'm positive I found this like in a Goodwill or something, right? And this is why I like buying secondhand stuff. I found old sci-fi books, anthology series and stuff that had people's plane tickets where they flew from Charlotte to Roanoke, and you can tell they bought this to have something to read, and they left their tickets in there and things like that. And in this particular issue, whoever owned this book before, this is love, guys. This is love. They took their own notes, and this is the original paper from the 80s and stuff, right? And they've taken their particular notes, and look at this. Yeah, this is fantastic. This guy's name was Richard Medina. He actually signed this one. So I'm going to get on Facebook, see if I can find this dude. I've actually returned comics over the years. I've been up in Beckley in an antique store, found an old comic. I think I did a YouTube video on it. Found a comic where there's an order form in there. And I just would look them up, and I actually got to return a comic to someone in Withville, Virginia. And then I had a friend, Rod Boyd, I found a book in Knoxville, 3 hours from us, Knoxville, Tennessee. And I got to see him in the year 2001. And I'm like, look what I found. And I was like, would you like it back? Because he had filled out the order form. It blew him away that it came back to him. It was a superhero catalog, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, I love finding this stuff, and I just find it interesting. Like, this is dedication. This is what Dungeons and Dragons also felt for me. This is what it looked like when we played Dungeons and Dragons, and I was trying to figure things out and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm going back and I'm reading reference material just to have something different and stuff, right? Sometimes I get on these kicks and I'm like, I'll just scratch that itch and stuff, right? So that's it. I got plenty to read, plenty to do. I hope you guys are enjoying the summer and making the best of it. We have reached the point where I've noticed that after having sunsets after 9 p.m. here, last night I looked out and noticed that the sun was behind the trees by 7:30. I'm like, oh, even though we're in July, it's starting to fade and stuff, right? So hopefully we'll have a camping trip in that I'm looking into. I don't know about any comic book conventions or anything like that. What's going on? It's a little bit unpredictable. But I tell you what, we have gone to some state parks in Kingsport, Tennessee, saw some rescued animals and wolves and things like that. We got the Superman movie coming up, Fantastic Four coming up. I am planning a pretty good camping trip. I used to do that all the time like it was nothing. And now it actually is an event. So we'll see what happens here. So make sure you're subscribed, like the video, thumb it up, share it, let people know we're there. And oh yeah, and Victor Shade says, oh yeah, the ECs are great, but they take time to read. They are to be savored. So it's great to find some stuff here that I have that's to be savored, to be experimental, and then some things. It's great to be excited about having 2, 3 of these books to read. You know what I mean? Like, it's exciting to be able to finish that Turtle story, The City at War. It's exciting to read some of these essays about what was going on in the 80s with the stories to reference. And yeah, it's great to be excited about this stuff. That's what it's all about, man. So guys, keep your libraries, appreciate them, go through them, make them what you want. weed out the fat if you want, and things like that, and just take a moment to sit down and relax and enjoy the hobby. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, if you're reading what you love and stuff like that, that's all that counts. It's you and the book. And at the end of the day, as much as we like to share this and be around people with the same interests and stuff like that, at the end of the day, it's just you and whatever's in your hands. Have a great day.